Assalamu alaikum, this is Maria Zulfikar welcoming you to the English news from Btv-Chattogram. Let's begin with the top stories. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei killed in US-Israeli attack. Iran declares 7-day public holiday and 40-day mourning. Bangladesh Biman leaves Dhaka for Medina as flights resumed with Saudi Arabia. Great month of independence begins. Various programs chalked out commemorating the occasion. Prime Minister Tariq Rahman orders to prepare 1 lakh volunteers in Dhaka to face disasters, says Relief Minister. City Corporation elections scheduled to be announced after Ramadan, says EC Abdul Rahman Al Masood. And India take on West Indies in Super 8 clash of ICC T20 World Cup at Eden Gardens in Kolkata. Viewers, those were the top stories. Now moving on to the details. Iranian state media confirmed the killing of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei in the US and Israel's ongoing attacks on the country. The killings mark one of the most significant blows to Iran's leadership since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. Iranian state media said Khamenei's daughter, son-in-law and grandson were also killed along with top security officials. Meanwhile, Iran has begun 40 days of mourning after Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed. In a statement, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian condemned the killing as a great crime. He also declared 7 days of public holidays in addition to the 40-day mourning period. People were seen pouring into the streets of the capital following the news of Khamenei's killing. Footage aired by Iranian state media showed supporters mourning at the shrine of Imam Reza in Mashhad, with several people seen crying and collapsing in grief. Meanwhile, the official IRNA news agency reported that a 3-person council consisting of the country's president, the chief of the judiciary, and one of the jurists of the Guardian Council will temporarily assume all leadership duties in the country. The body will temporarily oversee the country until a new supreme leader is elected. Meanwhile, protests over Ali Khamenei's killing have broken out in different parts of the world, including Iraq, Pakistan, Morocco, and Indian-administered Kashmir. Pro-Iranian protesters gathered outside the Green Zone in the neighboring Iraqi capital, Baghdad, where the U.S. Embassy is located. Iraq also declared 3 days of public mourning following the killing of Iran's supreme leader. There was also a protest in the Pakistani city of Karachi near a U.S. consulate following Khamenei's killing. At least 9 people were killed and several others were injured as security forces opened fire to scatter hundreds of pro-Iranian protesters trying to storm the U.S. consulate early on Sunday morning. Large protests also broke out in other parts of Pakistan. Protesters set fire to a United Nations office building in Pakistan's northern city of Skardu. In the Shia-majority Gilgit-Baltistan region, known for its Himalayan peaks, popular with tourists. In the central city of Lahore, hundreds of protesters gathered outside the U.S. consulate, but there were no reports of violence. Meanwhile, after U.S. and Israeli strikes, Iran has decided to close the Strait of Hormuz, banning all vessels from passing through. This crucial maritime channel is a lifeline for global oil markets. Oil tankers carry crude from Iraq, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar through this narrow passage. About 15 to 20% of the world's oil, condensates and petroleum products and over 30% of liquefied natural gas flow through it. Experts warn that a full closure of the Hormuz Strait could send oil prices soaring to $250 per barrel, up from the current $80 range. Flights between Bangladesh and several Middle Eastern destinations have partially resumed today after widespread cancellations triggered by security concerns in the Gulf region, following US and Israel's ongoing attacks on Iran. The airlines have started announcing revised schedules and limited operations from Dhaka and Chattogram. Biman Bangladesh Airlines has rescheduled 2 flights that were cancelled earlier amid disruptions in the Middle East. The Dhaka-Medina flight BG337 cancelled yesterday departed today at 4 p.m. The Dhaka-Jeddah flight BG335 cancelled yesterday will leave Dhaka for Jeddah today at 7 p.m. Another Biman flight BG135 on the Dhaka-Chattogram-Jeddah route departed for Jeddah from Shah Amanat International Airport at 4:10 p.m. today. Passengers have been requested to be present at the airport at the scheduled time by the authority in a press release. Meanwhile, US Bangla Airlines has resumed flight operations to Riyadh, Jeddah and Muscat from today as per schedule. In a separate release, the airline requested passengers to arrive at the airport at least 4 hours before departure and collect boarding passes from US Bangla check-in counters. The streets had been tense since the beginning of March 1971 at the outset of the Great Liberation War. March of 1971 marked the birth of Bangladesh, a historic turning point. Each day of that turbulent month saw the people of Bengal joining the struggle with a renewed aspiration for independence. On 1st March, Pakistan's President General Yahya Khan announced the postponement of the upcoming National Assembly session. In a radio address to the nation, he said more time was needed for political leaders to reach an understanding on drafting the constitution. The announcement declaring the National Assembly session postponed indefinitely triggered widespread protests. Angry demonstrators poured onto the Dhaka streets, shops across the city shut down, and an ongoing international cricket match at Dhaka Stadium was called off as spectators joined the protests. Dhaka turned into a city of processions. Air services were suspended and not only private employees but also government officials and staff left their offices to join the demonstrations. Political leaders expressed strong resentment over the decision to postpone the National Assembly session indefinitely. Describing it as one of the darkest days in Pakistan's political history, they alleged that the move was aimed to conspiring to prevent the transfer of power to the people's elected representatives. On the night of 1st March, Pakistan's President and Chief Martial Law Administration, General Yahya Khan, imposed special restrictions on newspapers regarding the publication of anti-government news, opinions and photographs. He also announced that anyone violating the order would face a maximum of 10 years of rigorous imprisonment under martial law regulations. At the time, East Pakistan was gripped by tense protests. Political activists and ordinary citizens took to the streets, building a strong mass movement to assert their rightful demands. Prime Minister Tariq Rahman has ordered the preparation of 1 lakh volunteers in Dhaka to deal with the post-earthquake situation. Disaster and Relief Minister Asadul Habib Dulu gave this information after a meeting with the Prime Minister at the Secretariat today. He said the Prime Minister has initially identified playgrounds and schools for shelter. The Disaster and Relief Minister said that he will meet the Prime Minister again on March 11 after preparing the initial plan. Election Commissioner Abdurrahman Al-Masood said city corporation elections will be held right after Ramadan. He disclosed this information today while attending a program organized by the Reporters Forum for Election and Democracy at the Election Commission Media Center, highlighting the Election Commission's activities regarding the ongoing by-elections. He said the Commission is waiting for Parliament's decision on whether party symbols will remain in local government polls. Referring to the recently held 13th National Parliamentary election and referendum, Abdurrahman Al-Masood said the polls were conducted in a free and fair manner. He added that the Commission would review any shortcomings in the electoral process. The Election Commissioner also urged journalists to perform their duties impartially and offer constructive criticism of the Commission's activities. Now, international news. At least 9 people have been killed near a United States consulate in the Pakistani city of Karachi after protests broke out following the killing of Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Several others were injured as security forces opened fire to disperse hundreds of pro-Iranian protesters trying to storm the consulate early this morning. Large protests also broke out in other parts of Pakistan. Protesters set fire to a United Nations office building in Pakistan's northern city of Skardu in the Shia-majority Gilgit-Baltistan region. In the central city of Lahore, hundreds of protesters gathered outside the U.S. consulate, but there were no reports of violence. Anti-war protesters gathered across the United States, including outside the White House and in New York's Times Square, to voice opposition to U.S. military involvement in the region. Scores of protests were sponsored by a coalition of left-wing groups, including the Ansar Coalition, the National Iranian American Council 50501, American Muslims for Palestine, the People's Forum, Palestinian Youth Movement, Code Pink, Black Alliance for Peace, and the Democratic Socialists of America. Iraqi protesters clashed with security forces near Baghdad's heavily fortified Green Zone as demonstrations erupted following the killing of Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. A video posted on X showed the protesters appeared to be mobilizing towards the U.S. Embassy amid anger over Khamenei's death. Footage showed demonstrators waving flags and chanting slogans while mourning the Iranian leader. Iran has closed the Strait of Hormuz to all ships after the U.S. and Israeli attacks. Iran's semi-official Tasnim news agency reported this information on Saturday night. The report said that ships in the relevant area have repeatedly received a message from Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps stating that no ship will be able to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranian armed forces have continued to retaliate against various U.S. and Israeli targets. In this context, the Strait of Hormuz has been closed to all ships. Meanwhile, several tanker owners, major oil companies, and commercial trading houses have suspended the transport of crude oil and LNG through the Strait of Hormuz in the context of Tehran's announcement of a ban on shipping. About 20% of the world's total oil is transported through the Strait of Hormuz. Oil extracted in Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Iraq, Kuwait, and Iran is exported through this route. In addition, a large amount of LNG from Qatar also goes to various countries through this route. Now, sports news. Cricket. Defending champions India is facing West Indies in a winner-takes-all Super 8's T20 World Cup clash at Eden Gardens in Kolkata. Co-hosts India stormed to 4 wins from 4 in their group in the first phase of the tournament, but have won 1 and lost 1 in the Super 8 so far. West Indies have the same record in the Super 8s, and the winner of the match in Kolkata will join South Africa in qualifying from Group 1 for the semi-finals.